a star, but only strictly where I'm famous. I'm in this for the longest haul, like we'll see where it takes us. I'm throwing back these double shots like whiskey here is weightless. Cause this career I chose was even riskier than Vegas, yo.
Welcome, everybody. Oh, I hope you are getting settled in for this evening because I have such an amazing guest tonight. I am so excited. I've known him for a few years now, and just, sometimes you get in the presence of those legends, and when those legends agree to be on your show, it's very exciting. So we do have a very special guest tonight, and what's amazing about him is not only is he a superb evidential medium, he's a teacher, he does mentoring and all of that. He is a spirit artist, okay? And so for some of you who don't know what that means, we're definitely going to ask him for the definition. But basically, he will connect to spirit. So mediums, that's what we do, right? We're talking to the spirit world. But he draws them, and then they're exactly like how they look. And I know that sounds like that would make sense, but it's remarkable how phenomenally accurate he is. So he's giving them, I've seen him work. I've seen him, I've had the honor of watching him work in Lilydale. So he gets up there and he's funny. So he's funny, he's relaxed, he's, doing his thing. The information that he's giving is so evidential. So the connection is like he doesn't have to do anything else. He doesn't need to be drawing for anybody, but he's actually drawing, and so he's giving you like this bonus on top of the incredible information and evidence that he's providing. So he'll draw and he'll do the whole thing. So as he's working, he's drawing and he's drawing. And then at the end, he'll go, "So does this look like the person?" And it's so remarkable. And so I am truly honored to have him on tonight. And so without further ado, let me just welcome our guest of the hour, Joseph Shiel. Hi, Joe.
Thanks for having me on.
I am so excited and honored to thank you. I know it's probably cold there and you could be nuzzling by the fireplace, so thank you.
I appreciate it. I appreciate that introduction too. I almost didn't recognize the guy. Thank you. Appreciate that.
Well, I have, listen, I've just had the honor of witnessing you deliver messages so many times, and it's so awe-inspiring and on so many levels.
I was very excited when you asked me to be on because I've seen you work at Lilydale as well, and it's just I love the way you work, and you really get a great connection with people, and everybody enjoys you. So thank you very much for coming all the way out to share your talents. It's fantastic.
Thank you. Don't ask me when it's snowing, though.
Oh, no.
I've got my limits.
Everybody hibernates when it snows.
I know, right? So now I have so many questions.
Okay, go.
Have you always been an artist? I mean, just from a child, were you an artist? Were you drawing spirit as a child?
I drew my first. The one I remember, and many of the family members remind me of, is I drew the first drawing of people in spirit when I was 5 years old.
Wow.
That's the first one I remember. And I remember just laying on the ground of the dining room and, coloring away and drawing all these people. But the difference was that the dexterity, the quality of the drawing was better than I normally do. In other words, normally I would be just like any other kid, take the crayon to the wall or scribble outside the lines and that type of thing. But this one, you could actually recognize the people.
Wow.
So, but most of those drawings are now, my mom handed them over to the priest and the nuns that came over to see what was going on, so. I don't have them anymore.
Did your mom, did she understand the gift? Was she supportive of the gift?
my mother was supportive of my gifts and my music, my voice, my artwork. She was very, very supportive, but unfortunately I lost my mother when I was really young. So, but my mom was an artist. She was a portrait artist, and and a musician, and concert piano, that type of thing. So she was pretty talented herself. So I
Wow.
feel like that's probably my only connection I have. So it's kind of cool in a way.
It's kind of interesting how it's passed on, but in a way to serve spirit as well, right?
Right, exactly.
Did you always know that you were supposed to serve? I mean, with priests and nuns, it's
I honestly was absolutely terrified of this.
yeah,
I didn't know what it was. I mean, if you asked me what a medium was, I couldn't have told you.
yeah.
I'd read the Bible and all that stuff, but I probably skipped over that chapter. I didn't understand that stuff. And if somebody told me to go to a psychic, I would have told them, you're out of your mind. I'm not doing that. Because to me, that was the crystal ball reader on the boardwalk.
Yeah.
It wasn't anything real to me.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
However, a couple of my sisters, I have 5 sisters, and a couple of my sisters and myself, and I remember my mom and my grandmothers all seem to have this sixth sense, to this extra sensory perception, eyes in the back of your head, whatever. But they knew what was going on, and it used to freak me out. And I'd have lots of stuff where I'd know what was going to happen, or it was bizarre. And I thought it was just being smart or being different and being weird. That's the way I looked at it. So I wasn't going to tell anybody I was seeing people or I was, hearing things. Especially in college when, I'd hear something. I definitely wasn't going to tell my roommates that I was hearing voices. I figured they'd put me in a straitjacket and lock me up.
Well, if anybody watching, just so you know, if you have a question about spirit artists, how it works, anything, put your question in the comments and we will have Tony keep an eye out on them for me. But Joe, so when was that moment of you connecting the dots of, hey, I'm talking to spirit and I'm supposed to do this? Like, how did that come about then?
Well, I always felt that my connection to a spiritual realm, or to spiritual knowing, was there, but I thought it was more of I put it in the context of the religion I had grown up in, and some of the experiences that I'd had trying other religions. I stayed in a Buddhist monastery for a while in Southeast Asia when I was a kid. Those types of things. I always felt spiritually connected or uplifted when I was in meditation or in prayer. So I spent a lot of time in the quiet when I was a kid. I was very shy, which you probably won't believe, because I was extremely shy in high school and in grade school. And I just spent a lot of time alone contemplating the world. And I mean, that's my background, is philosophy and theology. So I was in the seminary for the second time to become a permanent deacon in the Catholic Church. I never went through with the ordination to be a priest or to be a deacon, but I did go. I was in the formation twice. So the second time I was in a library. I'm dyslexic as all get out. So when I go to read books, I have my tricks of how I do it. I'll read the first chapter and last chapter and figure the book out. That type of thing. So I get tired easy if I'm reading textbooks and things like that. Yeah. So I would doodle when I was in the library, just draw pictures of people. But you're in kind of an altered state when you're doing that. Now, I didn't realize what I was doing. I'm just drawing pictures of people I see in my head. And people were coming up to me and saying, "Hey, that's my uncle." I was like, "What?" And they'd say, "That's my uncle." And I'm saying, "Well, I'm just drawing a picture here." And he goes, "No, how do you know my uncle? Why would you be drawing my uncle?" And I would say, "Look, buddy, I don't know who, if you want the picture, you can have it." And he said, "Can I?" And I'd say, "Yeah, sure." I said, "Tom seemed like a nice guy." And he goes, "How'd you know his name?" I would be freaking out.
I would.
I'd go home and just say, "There's something very strange happening to me." And so I asked friends, and before you know it, honestly, I went to psychiatrists, psychologists, priest I knew, deacons I knew, a rabbi I knew, and just sat with them and said, "What the heck's going on with me?" You know? And most of them said, "Look, you got some kind of gift. You ought to just keep looking and seeing what it's all about." And a couple of the older guys said, "Oh, you're being attacked." You know?
Yeah.
So I was flipping out a little bit over it all, but I continued to draw, and it was really a gift in a lot of ways to me. So
Yeah.
you know,
Yeah.
it
Uh,
helped me to find me. You know,
so you, but now you travel and you teach and you do this and you do, we call them gallery demonstrations, and you work with other mediums. So other mediums will be connecting and you'll be drawing. Um, so it's fantastic. Now you are a spiritualist, is that correct?
yes. Hmm.
And so you are a registered medium at Lilydale, uh, but you are also a part of the Forever Family Foundation, which, from my understanding, is a pretty special accolade. Is that correct?
I consider probably out of all the testing that I've gone through with different universities and Lilydale and things like that, the Forever Family Foundation is probably the most sound testing of the abilities to do this kind of work.
Wow.
They they have a very difficult application process, and then they use science and scientists and different types of experiments, which I don't know. They're not going to tell the mediums, but how to identify the qualities and the talents that you need to do this work.
Wow.
You're more evidential, and so that you can actually do this. Beyond that, you know, learning how to handle people and handle readings and how to function in this world as a professional doing this work and handling the grief that we handle every day, like you and I, when we're doing readings for people, and just being real with people and
Yeah.
being honest and having integrity in this work. That comes with training and learning how to be that way. A lot of people have these talents, but they don't know how to use them, or they get caught up in silliness, or they get caught up in TV or something. You know, it's not. They don't know the difference between Hollywood and say having a rational thought about what it is we're working on.
Right.
The
Right.
Forever Family Foundation was begun to kind of protect the general public from frauds.
Oh, good.
So that's how it began. So they do a lot of work to protect, you know, families and things like that. So we'll do grief retreats. We're going to be doing one in January.
Yes, January 4th through the
Right.
6th.
That'll be in Fort Myers, Florida.
Yeah.
We'll do one in Connecticut, which I've done a few times, and it usually we have people who have just lost somebody in the past year, parents that have lost children, often, and the people who started it, Fran and Bob Ginsberg, they had lost a child, and when they started to go to mediums, it was ridiculous. They were getting more hurt than
Oh,
help,
yeah.
you know.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
they decided to put this together, and it's been very, very successful. And I really appreciate the work they do, and a lot of great people involved too.
So, now for anyone who doesn't know, and I hope you don't mind me sharing, but you recently fell from a ladder, which I have to tell you, wait, but I was so, because I was getting ready to email you, and then I'm like, oh no, I'm like, so I waited to make sure you're going to be okay. But I mean, I'm glad you are okay. But do you ever think of, like, what if you can't draw? What if something happens that doesn't allow you to draw? Does that ever come to your mind anymore?
Well, a few things have happened to me over the past several years that have made me very, very worried about that. I mean, I'm not worried because I know somehow everything will be okay. You know, I'm a pretty positive person when it comes to those types of things. Even the fall off the ladder was, you know, it was a dumb move, if you will. You know, I was up on my sailboat, so my son told me to call it a boating accident, not a ladder accident. sound cooler. So I
So
had a
way more
floating,
mysterious. Yes.
but I fell off and I fell onto my head. My leg got caught up in the ladder, and I got pretty badly beaten up. But amazingly enough, the doctors were amazed and said, anybody else would have broken their neck. And he said, but I have a neck like a tree trunk. So and and I was very grateful because I did get a concussion. I was very grateful to wake up and see that I was still okay, even though I was, frightened.
Yeah.
I was frightened that day that I would not be able to, that they would have to operate on me because I hit my head so hard. And I had had a couple of friends get hurt that way in the past couple of years, and they're having trouble functioning. I mean, they got paralyzed. They had to open them up and, drain and that type of thing, and it caused damage. So as I was laying on the ground, I was cognizant, but I said, boy, once they operate on me, and maybe I won't be able to do anything. So I actually asked the man who found me to go to get my phone so I could call my kids and tell them I was all right, and talk to them before I went to the hospital.
Oh.
So,
Oh.
so yeah, it was frightening, but by the same token, I healed really, really quickly. I'm doing wonderfully. They took off all the braces and cast and all that stuff within 3 weeks, and I'm all right.
Wow.
I do believe in healing.
Yeah.
And so the only other thing that worried me was I'm actually legally blind, so I can see, but I have a degenerative disease within my eyes that I was told I would be blind within the next 5 to 10 years.
Wow.
And so that scared me, and I thought, what do I do? Do I go take Braille? Do I learn to paint without looking, basically? So I do a lot of practice of drawing without looking, without looking at the drawing.
Yeah.
All my multiple drawings are done with my eyes closed.
Wow.
So a different type of thing. But what happened is only a few weeks ago, I went to get new glasses, and the doctor told me they have a new operation that cures what I have.
Wow.
But wait as long as I can so that they can get good at it before I get it.
Yeah.
So, I mean, talk about, I think that's a stroke of luck, and very, very blessed to be able to, when the time comes, I'll get the operation and I'll be able to see. So
yeah. It is. Again, a lot of it we talk about perception and beliefs, but I also believe that when we are serving so fully, we are taken care of. Like, so many things that could happen don't, and little things open up, and it's really. It's kind of like that, you kind of go, okay, like it's very reciprocated. I feel, don't you?
I do. I do believe that the spirit world is there for us.
Yeah.
And that they really champion us to be their voice, to express what they have to say to us, and that there's some important things of how to live our lives a little differently. I believe if we listen to them a little bit more, maybe we'd stop killing each other. It'd
Yes.
be a whole lot better for the world if we got some wisdom from those who have passed on, and they've already been here and done this and made their mistakes.
Yeah.
So I often tell my students, I say, do you trust spirit? And they'll hem and haw a little bit, and I said, well, they trust you, and when you show up and say, I'd like to try to do this work, they'll show up and help you. I mean, I believe the best teachers aren't necessarily walking around on driveways here. They're really in our heads and where they need to be, because they're trying to help us to see the greater picture.
Yeah.
And to really serve the greater good. So that's my contention. My philosophy may be a little different than spiritualism, or a little bit different than others, but after many, many tries and errors, and many, many tries and successes, I have found that the spirit world is definitely something we can communicate with, definitely there for us, definitely want us to basically not necessarily walk through our grief, but run through and get back to life, because soon we'll be with them anyway.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah. And
yeah.
I think too, it's, I sometimes you just have to laugh. I mean, I don't, sometimes you just have to laugh. I think there's so many times where I go, oh, forget it. I'm not even going to try to fight this one. But they'll push you outside of your own comfort zone. Like you said, you're an introvert, right? You were kind of shy. It's not like you all of a sudden became an extrovert, but when you're serving spirit, they were like, Joe, you are going to get out there and you are going to tell everyone what we're telling you.
It's it is amazing, some of the things that happen and some of the events that go on in readings, private readings, as well as, maybe with a family, or in an audience, in front of an audience, and watching the entire audience be captivated by feeling the spirit with them.
Yeah.
It's not just what I'm doing.
Yeah.
It's being done in the midst of it all.
Yeah.
And everybody notices the holiness within the room, or the auditorium, or wherever it might be. And it's just incredible. And that's the way it should be. We could be giving one, reading or message to one person in that audience, but everybody benefits from seeing and witnessing that continuity of life.
Yeah.
And that's special.
And that healing that happens is very contagious.
Absolutely.
So, and now when you're drawing, do you use pencil? Do you use pastels, charcoal, oil paint? That's one of the questions from the listeners.
Okay. Well, when I'm doing the spirit art in a private sitting, I use a lot of graphite pencils. I try to use a few different grades of pencils so that I can do the shading and things like that. I'll use a scrub stick, which is just a spreader, which is just to shade with, which is actually just rolled up paper. So that's what I do. And I have a gum eraser.
Okay.
I feel like it picks up the smudges the best. So I like to play with it. I make little things out of the end of my pencil out of it. So the gum eraser is there. It's something to fiddle with, I guess, as I'm thinking. I don't know.
Yeah.
But there are drawings where I use pastels. I use colored pencils, or I love to use watercolor pencils. That's what I use for the autographs. I use watercolors.
Okay.
So watercolor painting on canvas paper. So that's how I do that. And then my fine art is oil. So I paint with oils when I'm doing serious paintings.
So the fine art is like the Red Barn. I was talking to Tony here about the Red Barn. Okay, so but those trees with the snow on them, you painted that, or you did that? Because it looks so realistic. That's all from scratch.
That's all from scratch.
Wow.
That's a real barn, and that's a real crew team right there. That one.
Wow. That is amazing. Yeah, I mean, you're a fine artist as well as a spirit artist.
Right.
And then
I love it,
what is the aurograph? Can you explain what an aurograph is? No.
Well, I call mine soul journeys.
Okay.
There are a number of people, Stella Upton, who I'll be working with come springtime, really kind of introduced me to them, and she's an instructor and over at Arthur Findlay College,
Yeah.
and she comes over here to the United States quite a bit with her husband Stephen Upton, and Stella does these beautiful pastel pictures, and she did one for me, and I thought it was wonderful how she read it. She read like a timeline of where I am and where I should go, and these things are coming into my life, and emotions and feelings and that type of thing. And I just thought she did a brilliant job. And so I had a second one done a couple of years later, and she encouraged me to do them. And hers is so pretty and frilly. I don't know, it's like it's just not me,
Yeah.
a little bit more rough. So I said, well, I'll try them. She goes, just do them your way.
Yeah.
So I sat with somebody and tried it. And I did a face. I started with a face just like I start a spirit portrait. Only this time, all of a sudden, I felt like I was really in tune with the person I was with and empathic with them, that I knew their life. I started to see them as a child and do remote viewing around their house. So I could tell them who would live there, the pictures on the wall, the items on the dressers, and everything. And so I knew them. I knew their life. I knew what they had been through. I knew what the hassles in life were, where the changes took place, with the good and all the good and all the bad.
Right.
And I knew right then that I needed to take it quite seriously and needed to take it reverently, that I had somebody's private life with me, and that I needed to keep my mouth shut about that, number one.
Yeah.
And I needed to just really have somebody's life in my hands, that I needed to be very, very caring and loving towards them. And what it happened was I started to draw symbols and colors and movement and animals and connections, the size of things, every line, every color, every movement, every hue on the page. The music of that page means something about that person and their life, past, present, and the possibilities for this future. So they could see where they were going and make better, sounder choices for their soul journey in their lifetime. So that's what they became. And as I began to do that, many, many people started to come to me for those. They take me an awful long time. I've complicated the daylights out of them. But I do enjoy coming to know people like that. And if I can be helpful, people use them as kind of an affirmation. I've had people say, I put them on the back of the cabinet door, or I put them, they sit in the wall in the bathroom so I can look right at them in the morning.
Yeah, because for them, it's a message every single time they look at it.
This is what I'm going to choose today in my life. I'm not going to choose the hurts of the past, or the victimization of the past. I'm going to choose to be powerful in my own being.
Yeah.
And forward, I'm going to choose peace.
They can help someone even so even if you do a spirit portrait, right, and then someone is working through their grief, you can literally do one of these to kind of help them be motivated, inspired each day, help them through that.
And it's, I didn't realize that, it's a little different than other people's autographs, but I really feel like the connection with the other person, and it became so deep that sometimes family members show up in them, like I'll draw, I just sent one out to somebody, and there was a picture of a man in the mix of the drawing. And sure enough, it was her father who had just passed.
Oh, so he is peeking his head in.
I had no intention of, or really didn't have any communication with him, but his drawing actually showed up in the picture.
Wow.
It's amazing to me how much we're carried sometimes with these things. I can't take the credit.
Yeah.
Now, as an artist, I look at my photographs and I cringe. I look at, like, that doesn't really look like a great deer, or that doesn't look like a great horse, and you see my fine art, I look at those and go, but I have to just let go and have them the way they come out. So.
Yeah. You can't let that monkey mind get in the way, right? We have to, it's the same as we just got to surrender. But what's interesting, mentioning that the dad came into the autograph, have you been doodling without consciously being aware of your own family, yet when you drew it, it was one of your family members? Has that ever happened?
I have drawn, sometimes when I'm doing a spirit drawing, I'll feel like that person is me. In other words, the blending of the minds, the discarnate mind and the carnate mind is so close that I feel like I'm sitting across from that woman, and I'm her husband and I want to give her a big hug, or I'm that person's child and I want to say, look, I'm okay, stop crying,
Yeah.
And I feel like I'm that person, or I'm that old man or old lady, or, whatever the case may be. And when I feel like I'm them, the mistake that I've made at times is I'll go to try to draw them from that perspective. having never seen them, but I feel like I'm them. So I'm trying to draw a self-portrait. And it was funny. I drew one recently where I tried to draw the woman's mother, but it looked like me. I think she's a lot prettier than I am. So it's not so good, because she had this bulbous face, and
Yeah.
it was actually a very attractive woman. So I have to adjust sometimes, because if I'm not seeing them and I'm doing it from that perspective, I can get things in my own.
Yeah. Yeah.
I have drawn my grandfather quite a bit.
Oh.
Over the years, I've drawn him 4 or 5 times. But he was very close to me and very special. And I think sometimes I just feel like, he's there with me, so he must be the one I caught.
Yeah, yeah. That's incredible. And you've been teaching really for so many years now. I mean,
I started teaching before I was doing mediumship, and I taught at the college level, and I taught the first welfare to work program for women in the country.
wow.
Designed it and taught it for the SUNY system, and so I love to teach. I love to find new ways to teach. I was nominated for a Vanguard Award for that teaching, for most innovative new ways of teaching. And really, it sounds real nice and everything, but what it is just trying to figure out how does the student learn, so that I can make sure that they get the information, and then how can I push them into learning different ways, or opening them up so that they can enrich that learning. So in my mentor programs and things like that, I try to take everybody individually. I only take so many people. I don't take really huge groups of people, because I do believe that the student teacher ratio is really important, so that you have that connection. And I call it a mentor and a coaching class. So the coaching is actually the fundamentals and the mechanics of things, but the mentorship is for life. I hope that they come to trust me, and I hope that they become better than I am. That's really would show me that I've done something right. If they can really go further with this than I have, learn new things that are on the horizon and really grab them and go with it, and even build a closer connection to spirit, then that would make me one happy guy, I'm going to say.
Well, what would, if you had to think about your legacy, right? What would you want that legacy to say?
I think if I had something to say with a legacy, would be that I was a person who tried hard despite some of the mistakes I've made in my life, despite some of the horrors I've been through in life, that I never stopped trying, and that I made an effort to reach out and help others. I really believe that as mediums, whether we're ordained or not, whether we go through a little church, or whether we get it on the back of a cigarette pack, or whatever the case, that it is a ministry. Mm-hmm. We have people's lives, their hopes, their dreams, their most horrible days of their life in our hands. And if we can be kind enough and have the integrity enough to give of ourselves to them and carry them for just a little while, it might be just the hour, the half hour, and be real about who we are, then we're of great service. And I just hope that someday people see some of the things that I've left with the world and say, I left it a little bit better than I found it. That's really my hope, is that people will say, he tried hard. He's got a lot of scars, but that's from falling off boats and hitting his head against the wall, but that's besides.
Yeah. Well, you just have to, you just have to tell them you were in the middle of the Atlantic Ocean fighting for Moby Dick and got a little bump. You just embellish it a little. Now, I want to just mention for everybody out there, because Joe has a lot of stuff on the East Coast. So for all the East Coast peeps out there, you definitely, you have some events in Lilydale coming up. But before that, you have, we've got the January 4th through the 6th. You're going to be in Fort Myers, and that's the grief retreat. So is that for anyone who has experienced grief or is working through grief that they can attend this retreat?
I think anybody who's interested in the science or the social factors of this, anybody who's interested in the organization itself, if you have been through grief, if you've had a major loss, a loss in your family or whatever, it would be a wonderful thing for you to attend. And you can just go to foreverfamily.org and they'll help you out there. It is a retreat where there are psychologists, psychiatrists, there's other people there that are very helpful in trying to explain the afterlife, the continuation of life, if you will, what mediumship is all about, what to watch for, how to be careful and, not get taken, if you will.
Mm-hmm.
And then Janet Havoc will be there, Joe Peretta will be there, and as the three mediums that are there, we'll be working with people and hopefully bringing in some loved ones and doing, some readings and a demonstration as well. So it's a wonderful place, a wonderful facility. I've been there a few times now, and it's warm and there's no snow, which is
yeah, it's always nice, isn't it? But speaking of snow, you're going to be with Janet at the Journey Within in March 23rd, 2 days after my birthday. I should come out there. So you're going to do a demonstration with Stella Upton.
Yes, I am. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
That will be fun.
Yeah, I think Stella and I do one or two every year, so we have for many years now.
And you're at Janet's church quite often as well.
I'm more church many years ago, and I've been kind of a presence there, and I have a little place where I do my readings there when I'm there. I'm not there as often as I used to be. There's a lot of people coming and going, but I teach a lot of the fundamental things there. So, the basics and just get people going and the beginners mediumship and things. And I will be doing a bigger program next year. So that people can join me there. But I do travel a lot to teach other places, and in Florida also will be at the Spirit University the next weekend. So if people are looking for that, I'll be teaching platform mediumship there.
Oh, wonderful.
That's in Sarasota.
So okay. But all the events you put on your website, so anyone can go to josephshiel.com. And then if they do a reading with you, so can they book the autograph reading, like they book that, or they can book a spirit portrait?
Spirit portraits, you can book those, and there's regular readings, which are half an hour, just regular readings without a drawing, okay? I usually take a lot of notes and doodle for those, but that I don't normally do a drawing. Sometimes I do, and it comes out, and there you have it, okay? And you can have that. I record all my readings. I think that's important. And then half hour, beyond the half hour, there's an hour reading or an hour. It takes about an hour with the drawing, because I like to be able to sit with spirit for a while and to bring in several people and then ask you, who do you want me to draw?
Okay.
I'll ask you, which person do you want me to draw? And I try to draw that person. Now, sometimes I end up drawing your aunt instead of your mom, but it still shows you that they're there. And the multiple drawings are a whole different ball of wax. They take about 4 hours. I usually give up the whole day for them. And there's an explanation time, and I'm really putting myself in a very deep altered state. But in those sittings, I've drawn as many as 22 family members accurately in the one sitting.
Well, we have a picture of one, I believe. So let's show that one. It's at the bottom in the middle, right there. Yeah, show that. We're showing your art here as we're talking. See? So in that, everybody, as you can see, he's got all the loved ones around. That would take a lot of work. But I also want to show, let's just take a minute because time is going by so quickly. I want to show some of the spirit art. So, and then the actual photo. So, do you ask them to bring an actual photo, or do you ask for it later?
I ask them to bring it, to either send it to me later, or the people have come to know me, so now they're bringing it on their phone or they're bringing it in their wallet, and they'll pull it out after I'm done and compare it, which is nice to have it. And those who've allowed me to use them like this, I really appreciate it. But I always ask permission.
Yeah.
I've done thousands and thousands of drawings, so these are ones that people have actually asked. I've asked them and they've given me permission to use them, so I appreciate that.
When you first did it, were you just like, I mean, honestly though, the first time like you were gonna draw and like show someone the picture and ask, were you just like so nervous, or were you just completely okay?
I was very nervous.
Yeah.
I mean, I was very nervous. You think you get nervous just giving information, turning the drawing around in his face, and don't think that it were. I would say a good 80% or more are very accurate, and then some of them are not so accurate, or there's somebody else. I've drawn 36 living people throughout the years I've done this. Now that's a very small percentage given the thousands that I've done. However, I freaked out the first time I did it.
Yeah.
And somebody said, well, that's my dad, but he's alive. It's like, oh my God, why did I draw our dad? And I got very nervous about what does that mean and all that stuff. And we can take that fear and really spin it and make things crazy, or we can just look for some evidence of why is that happening.
Yeah.
So in all 36 drawings, what the one common denominator was, it was the last person that the person who was deceased saw before they died.
Wow.
So remember before when I said I feel like I'm them?
Yes.
So I'm looking at the last minute of my life. So I'm drawing the person I saw just before I died.
Yeah.
Which was the father in that case.
Wow.
So it's pretty cool. It shows another way to see this as reality.
Yeah, it is. The more we get to have the honor of accepting and really playing with spirit, it's so undeniable that there's so much more to the physical body.
And I think there's a lot of young people doing spirit art now who have been in my classes and who have gone over and studied with people in England as well, and like Sue Wood and a few others, and they're just really showing some real progress and an embrace of this. And so it's not as rare as I thought. I always thought I was the only one in the world, but then I found Coral Polsch. So if anybody wants to look her up, she did about 25,000 pictures, and she passed away quite a while ago. But I have met people that knew her and how wonderful person she was, and all the nice work, her beautiful drawings.
Yeah.
Things like, Frank Leahy and several others. So that's really quite important. Alan Stuttle. These people are around today. Alan and Sue Wood and people. So I want to say I'm not the only one.
Yeah.
That does this. I try to be the one that really, for me, I'm not in competition with any other mediums. I'm one who wants to see more and more, because I think it'll help us to get a clear picture and understand where we're going with all of this.
Maybe we should just kind of nickname you the Godfather of spirit art, though. One last question. One of the comments, one of the listeners, so she has an autistic child, and she said, would the spirit art help her autistic child? So either maybe him doing it or him getting a drawing. Do you feel that it can connect or resonate with anyone, especially if someone has autism or any other needs?
Well, I feel like we don't understand autism completely, and I certainly am no expert. However, I think that any kind of creativity or focus type work with the creative mind could be very helpful to a child who is either hyper focused or can't stay for that type of thing. So it could be a beautiful thing for them, and they might be able to do it quite well. I think when things are different, or somebody has a malady that's different, we tend to be afraid right away, and so we have all these knee-jerk reactions that aren't correct. But a mom knows her child better than any doctor, better than any scientist, and she's going to know whether that child has a propensity towards artwork, towards drawing. And I would say, why not try? Why not see if they can kind of see it a little better, see if they can find it somehow. Over the years of doing this, I've met a lot of young people that parents have brought them to me, and they've been the odd kid in class, so they have some severity of some mental gyrations that they're dealing with, and artwork has really given them a way of becoming more peaceful, getting, they're not so ADD anymore, they're not so, dyslexia is which I have, is misdiagnosed lots of times because people just don't take the time to try to understand exactly where you're coming from.
Yeah.
And so they'll throw labels on things where I think it would be advantageous for a mom who knows her child and thinks he or she might have some interest in art to lay some art materials out, lay some things out, draw right alongside them, show them a video of me working or somebody else working, and see if they show some interest. I think it'd be really valuable.
Yeah, that's a great idea. So that is about all of our time. Can you believe it? I told you it would be so much fun.
Thank you so much.
I enticed you. I said, it's going to be so much fun. You'll see. But it just as a student of this and seeing you, and you've been, you have this presence. It's, whether you are teaching a class or not, you truly are serving as a mentor. And I just want to thank you for that. I watch you just walk through, when you're chairing at Lilydale, and I'll just walk through, and you can just feel your support, and you can feel like, you'll sit over to the side and you can feel like there's someone in your corner. And I just really it means so much. And I'm sure just thousands of people have been so lucky to be on the receiving end of your amazing and beautiful gift.
Thank you. And thank you for the work you're doing. And thank you for your radio show. I think you're doing a great job to bring some reality to all this. And that just is, it's a service second to none. So I appreciate that very much. And I hope you get back to Lilydale. I hope to get to see you.
I'll be there. I'm going to come in August. So I will see you. Hopefully it won't get too cold. All right, Joseph, I want to thank you, everybody. Go to josephshiel.com. We have the website right up. Look at his events. If you're in Florida, you're in New Jersey, Connecticut, New York, follow, join in. If you've even thought maybe you wanted to try, just go, listen, partake. And Joseph, thank you very, very, very much. And please take care of yourself.
Peace. Have a nice evening.
All right. Good night. Good night, everybody. I'll see you next week.
Good night, folks.
Sometimes I feel like a star, but only strictly where I'm famous. I'm in this for the longest haul, like we'll see where it takes us. I'm throwing back these double shots like whiskey here is weightless. Cause this career I chose was even riskier than Vegas, yo.